what is college football going to be looking like, let's say not next year, but in the years to come? And for me, question is, can private equity firms save college football? Now, Steve Tamil wrote about this at ESPN, but not long before he did, actually about a couple weeks before he did, I got contacted by a hedge fund manager that I managed to stay friends with. And he had asked me straight up, RJ, being a college football dude and doing what you do for a living and having given half your life to covering the sport, what would you think of a fund buying into an athletic program? And my first thought was, it terrifies me. It terrifies me because, you know, like anybody else that has a portfolio, and I do, you are looking at distressed assets and trying to see if you can't get some gains out of those distressed assets. And college athletic departments are the definition of a distressed asset that has a lot of value. Okay. So I look at a college football athletic department or a college football program or an athletic department, and I see people care about your product. People want to invest in your product, and you can't seem to find a way to profitize your product in a way that maximizes its gains and minimizes its losses. Problem with all of that is there's no humanity in being a good business person. And our sport is about human beings, what we believe, and our emotions. The intrinsic value from claiming your team as a national champion is at an all-time high. Do you get to have that trophy? Absolutely not. But I guarantee you, if you know a Michigan fan, they have told you that they are the national champs and they're willing to invest in the University of Michigan to continue to see its success. So when I look at some of these capital investments, I'm going, ooh, we're not that far away, because we might be getting to a place where the money infusion is needed, given what the payouts might have to be. We're not just talking about the name, image, and likeness money that is coming from outside parties. We're also talking about, are the universities going to have to pay players like employees? And that just doesn't mean financial compensation. That means other things like, you know, healthcare, overtime, workers' comp, insurance. These are all things that matter to the rest of us as adults. But I'm going to back up just a little bit and lead us back into that and tell you what I think is going to happen in the future. So the Big Ten, the SEC, created a working committee to try to find a way through this quagmire that is probably having to pay players to play college football and other sports if they have that sort of market value. The problem with this is I don't know that anybody wants to pay, and I don't know that everybody can afford to pay. And Congress is not interested in bailing you out of your problem if you are college football or college administrators. They're interested in helping you, but they don't want to solve it for you. And there is no really great solution on the horizon for anybody. They're just these court cases that are going to continue to go on until enough financial damages have been paid for somebody to have to pull a lever and say enough. Because if House versus NCAA goes toward House, we're looking at maybe $4 billion in damages, and that's a lot of money. For perspective there, the Big Ten was lauded for signing a $1 billion television deal. We're talking about 4 times that over the course of however many years, right? In addition to players not being able to make money before 2021 on a name, image, and likeness and what they feel they're entitled to. Then on Monday, we got news that the National Labor Review Board officially said that Dartmouth's basketball team, men's basketball team, are school employees and could be allowed to unionize. This is news for a number of reasons, not the least of which it is the first such athletic program that has seen A, their players want a union, and B, be granted the opportunity to have one since 2014 when Northwestern's football players attempted to do it, okay? The same rules kind of apply here. Dartmouth is in the Ivy League, which does not award athletic scholarships, and Dartmouth men's basketball does not make any money, to which the University of Dartmouth is like, hey, look, we don't think they should be allowed to do this because we don't make no money from this, and we can't afford to pay them even if we did, to which National Labor Review Board has been like, tough, and we'll see where that goes. But it is significant because it is yet another domino to fall in the direction of eventually you're going to have to classify these players as employees. Now, you want amateurism, but amateurism is gone. It's been gone for a long time. So you're going to have to make do with what this is. And I think people thought naively that name, image, and likeness was going to satiate a player or an athlete's opportunity to make money. No, it just emboldened them. Okay. That's your found money. That's your sponsorship money. That is not the salary that you get paid. Okay. The example that I gave on Tuesday is the example I'm going to give today. Shohei Ohtani is making money from New Balance. Okay. All right. That's his found money. That's sponsorship money. The $700 million that the Dodgers are going to pay him, that's the salary for being an employee of the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's what these players want. They want to be salaried employees with healthcare, with benefits, and with a collective bargaining agreement that was negotiated by a union against the ownership, in this case, NCAA officials. Ooh, all right. Now we're getting thick. Now it sounds like the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL. Yeah, that's because it is. And for you that believes that you're not going to be watching college football if this happens, I dare you. I dare you. You're going to watch it because you love it. And everybody else around you loves it. And everybody around you watches it. You might not like it, but it's going to be a thing that you put up with. And frankly, it ain't your money. If anybody's going to get mad about it, it's going to be these college administrators. So now with things like this Dartmouth case, you have Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti looking around going, I don't think that Dartmouth's men's basketball team should be able to influence what happens at Florida's basketball team. Or in the case of Tony Petitti's Big Ten, I don't think that Dartmouth's basketball team should influence what Matt Painter's doing at Purdue. Okay. And yet that's how people want to classify college athletics. They want to treat these things as if they're all the same. I can assure you they are not. We are not. We are not the same. Okay. Ohio State and Michigan do not operate like Washburn and Oklahoma Wesleyan. It's not possible. So how are we going to solve this? Are we going to have the haves and have-nots, as some people have said, or the rich and the not so rich? I think so, but we've always had that since the NCAA first put this into motion by severing Division 1A from Division 1AA so that they could tell everybody what they were going to make from television money. And then colleges said, you know what? I don't think the NCAA should be able to tell Penn State or Oklahoma whether or not they get to play on national television. And the Supreme Court agreed with them, in which case we have these conferences that form expressly to negotiate with television network to put the games on TV and everybody makes a bunch of money. Problem with that model is it paid the coaches, it paid the university, it did not pay the players. And we are a nation of laborers and a nation of unions. This was only going to last for as long as the money did not get to be high, and the money continues to get so high. And as the money is continuing to get so high, we're also getting to see Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti having to lead this charge lest they be caught from behind. The example that I lean on in my conversations around these things with hedge fund managers and people that invest in other companies is you're not going to see an Ohio State or Michigan take advantage of something like these capital investment funds or venture capitalism, period, to start. It's going to be at a smaller school that needs the money and or wants to be a player. You'll remember you didn't give a damn about Central Florida 15 years ago. Central Florida gave a damn about Central Florida, okay? You'll remember that you didn't know UTSA was on the map until they started playing football in 2011. Now, UTSA is winning five-star recruits like Denver Harris in the transfer portal. You're going to remember Liberty, what nobody until last year they show up at the Fiesta Bowl undefeated to play Oregon. This is because football put them on the map. This is why these things matter. And those are the kind of universities that I think would much more likely look at these and be like, oh, we could use a cash infusion to help us try to play with the big boys, try to put us on the good foot with the Big Ten and the SEC. You need to have rules in place that kind of regulate these things. Otherwise, yeah, it is going to continue to be the Wild Wild West. And those of us that are smarter than others to see the market inefficiency are going to exploit it, right? That's the thing. Like you'll notice that this show was operating 2017. So we're in year 7 of this. And now think about how many college football shows are on YouTube. Think about us going live after games and instantly reacting after games and how that's just what people do now. That's going to be what it is in our sport, financially speaking, unless you can get a lid on this. And that's why Greg Sankey and or Tony Petitti are taking the lead on this. Now, I mentioned to you that the NCAA's doomsday scenario is very much at work here, where you're introducing not just unionization, but extending employee rights to healthcare, paid leave, minimum wage, and overtime. But I think the other way to look at this is knowing that that ain't the only way it can go. That's a way we can predict it to go. And what scares people is it's unpredictable, right? You can't plan your business around something you don't know what's going to happen. For instance, nobody knew that COVID was coming in 2020. Otherwise, we would have damn well adapted to it well before we had to adapt to it. Now, for me, and I think for other universities that have folks like myself, I operate best in wartime. I operate best in chaos. I don't appreciate that, but I acknowledge it as a strength, which means that when we went into lockdown, your man went from posting 1 video a day to 2 to 4 because I got to prove utility. And not only did I get to prove utility, I got to make up some ground on people that were having to learn how to do their show from their homes, which is something that we have been doing for 7 years, right? This entire space exists because of what we were choosing to do during those moments. I think you're going to see a lot of athletic departments that look at this the same way and not so much about trying to keep people down as how do we use this to rise up, which is how I get back around to venture capitalism. So while a hedge fund manager looks at that athletic department like a distressed asset, she can turn a profit if she reorganizes it and makes it more efficient, more impactful. You should also look at college football the same way as a fan. So let's put some names to this. Redbird Capital and former Florida State quarterback Drew Weatherford's Weatherford Capital, along with Sixth Street Partners and others, are just a few that have kicked the tires on what it might look like to invest in a program like Florida State. And we all know that Florida State might actually be looking for some money right now to get themselves out of the ACC because it would cost that much to get them out. And if you got somebody that's willing to invest that so they can have an ownership share in what you're doing in the future, they probably would. Because no asset appreciates like a major sports franchise. None. The money is ridiculous, okay? Like, for instance here, I'm gonna use the example of, you know what? I'm gonna make it simple. I'm just gonna keep it with the NFL, okay? The NFL makes $11 billion in television rights last year alone, right? That is basically 3 times the next best, okay? The reason they're able to do that is because their individual franchises continue to go up in value. Now you have to be a billionaire to own an NFL team. And even then, that's if they like you. These things have reached a point of where not only is they unaffordable to most of us, but they're like being barons in our time. Because the only thing I think you're going to have that appreciates like a sports franchise might be your house. And that is assuming that you can still buy a house. You understand what I'm saying here? Because as we get further and further away and the money gets larger and larger, there's only so much your donor is going to be able to help you unless that donor is wealthy. And if that donor is a wealthy hedge fund, yeah, okay, their job is to make money. That's what they do. You should also know that if you go in with a venture capitalist, they're going to expect you to not double their profit. They get into this to make 10x, to make 20x, okay? It ain't to make $500 million on top of another $500 million. It is to take your $500 million and turn it into $1 trillion. That's the job here. Do you want that to be college football? I don't think you do. But that might be what it has to be if we don't get regulation around this thing quick, fast, in a hurry and get to understand not only is the NCAA operating against antitrust, but perhaps should be adapted to not just what we have today, but what the future is going forward. Because I don't think we want to live in a world where the NCAA doesn't exist. Or more precisely, we don't want to live in a world where we don't have governance over things like college football. Now, if you want to call it something different than the NCAA, fine. That's great. I'm good with that. There are some folks that believe that we need a college football czar or commissioner. The issue I got with that is the person that, or people that you would want to do that job probably don't want to do it. And the people that do want to do that job, probably not people you want to do it. So, for instance, Nick Saban wanted to be the czar of college football. I don't think anybody would tell him no, but I don't think Nick Saban wants that job. I think Nick Saban wants to be out there golfing with Travis Scott. You heard me? Okay? You're going to run into these things, right? You're probably going to have to put some checks and balances on that, but you can see how that also gets people up in arms because there's a check and balance everywhere we go. Take our nation, for instance. We got the presidency, executive branch, got the legislative branch, we got the judicial branch. All those branches ain't always on the same team. And some of them contradict each other. Probably going to have that in college football as well. But centralizing the sport is probably going to happen because it's going to consolidate the television money. And it's going to make clear who's got money and who doesn't and who you're actually playing against. Because while I cited to you Liberty playing in the Fiesta Bowl against Oregon, I don't think that's a matchup that you traditionally want. You want Oregon to be punching at Ohio State, at UCLA, at Washington. You don't want Oregon to be punching at Sun Belt programs. That's not what we want. we also make fun of these things with our segment called Money in the Bag, where we have these pay guarantee games where you're paying to beat a team that is bad to a pulp. And then sometimes they up and say, actually, no, the rabbit's got the gun. We're going to be PJ Funny Bunny, and we're going to rob you in broad daylight, and we're going to make off with the L, and then we're going to memorialize it at a Monroe restaurant for ULM, because that's what they did when they beat Alabama in 2007. I think examples of where we're going, again, resemble the NFL, the NBA, NASCAR, the English Premier League, or any other league that has broadcast itself on TV and has either formed out of a merger or a new league expressly for TV, like the Premier League. The Premier League was created to show the best teams in England on television. That's it. They still play the FA Cup, where everybody gets an opportunity to play, but not everybody is showing up to watch Luton or whatever bum FIFA program that they try to give you in that bum football game where all I want to do is play with Arsenal. I grew up an Arsenal fan, right? I am an Arsenal fan. We ain't got to talk about it, but you get my point here. I got to see Arsenal on television. I would never know Arsenal if I didn't see them on television. That's what we're trying to do here. And as far as getting our arms wrapped around this problem, I think the Big Ten and the SEC working together is good for the sport. I think that's healthy. I'm glad Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti are doing this. I also understand why it gives you the willies. However, we've been talking about Power 5 and now Power 4 for the better part of 3 decades. Now we should start acting like it, separate them, have different, more and different divisions for football and operate that way. Because we put the FCS National Championship on television. They got a 2014 playoff, but we do not act as if they are playing for the same championship as Michigan was against Washington. Continue to have that energy as you go into these things and try not to let yourself get upended by what you think is going to happen or how much it hurts you. Okay? I understand that you think that college football should probably be the way that it was years ago, but so do I. But that's also because we fell in love with the sport at a different time. Okay? The perspective I give to that is I remember Nebraska being the team I was most afraid of. I remember Nebraska beating Oklahoma like a drum and not being able to do anything about it. That ain't these kids. I remember a time when Alabama wasn't nobody, and I was never scared of Alabama. And these kids grow up knowing Alabama is great, and that's where they want to play. That's going to be their energy going forward. That's what happens as you get older, right? The thing you fall in love with, it changes. The job that was the job when I got into this is no longer the job. So you have to keep your eyes down the road, spin it forward, and try to figure out, is this what you want to do? Is this what you want to be about? If not, there's no shame in that. You can go do something else. It's fine. But I love college football. I truly love college football. I love the kids. I love the stories. I love what it has given me. I love what it will give me. And I'm going to do my best to try to operate above board while also making sure that everybody gets what they owe. And players are owed salary for our entertainment. If you like what you've seen, consider subscribing to the #1 college football show on YouTube, the Fox Sports app, or wherever you get your podcast.